and welcome back to our afternoon session together with Oliver. We will let you know a little bit or get to know about our MAM solution and what does it bring great with it. May you quickly introduce yourself first?
Hi people, my name is Oliver. I'm from Flowworks. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO. What is it that Flowworks does? We're obviously a software company, so we produce solutions, but we also host them for customers. We administrate systems from time to time. What we really do is take care of media. And the way we do that is really from the first idea all the way to the monetization. So we are concerned not just with ingest and archiving and then processing, but also a lot with playout and publication. And we do that whole process basically on two levels. The one level is on the technical level. So it's all about processing the items as they come in, doing a QC, doing a transcoding, adding soundtrack, adding subtitles, cut down versions, etc., anything that you might have with the media that actually needs a bit of technical handling. But the second level is the editorial level. So it's very much also about the actual process of creating, owning, and monetizing media, where you have very distinct, different types of users, the ones being more technical, who take care of building the workflows and doing the integration, and the majority of people are actually just normal people, surprisingly enough, who just use the system from an editorial perspective.
Yeah, so the Flowworks system is very modular built, which opens a lot of opportunities. We'd like to give you an insight in that. So could you please explain how is it built and what are the opportunities come with the system?
Well, there's obviously in the center sits the core system called Flow Core, surprisingly.
Like
which
simple?
So you can actually remember that, which is basically a MAM system. And it includes a transcoder, it includes all the databases, for the content, for the users, etc. In the core is also where you manage your architecture, meaning if you have not just one installation, but several installations, or a local installation plus a cloud installation, the way they interact is all managed in the core. But as I said before, we are really about the very first idea on a piece of media all the way to the monetization basically means that you're kind of following, as you would read the chart from left to right, where our job is really to try and help you save money and save time in this part and help you make money on that side in the playout. The reason why we've then sort of created it as a very modular system is twofold. One, we have very many different types of customers. We have production houses, post houses, broadcasters, news agencies, advertising agencies, industrials, even institutions like a university, for example. And you can quite readily imagine somewhere along that timeline, they'd be focused on something slightly different, each of them. So offering the system its modules basically allows us to make smaller packages, very targeted packages for an individual type of application, customer, or use case, and basically makes the product a little bit cheaper, which is nice for everybody else but us. But that's we found that's quite expedient to get people to actually start using such a system and actually reap the benefits. If they like it, they grow. So they can simply add modules when they feel the time is right.
So some of our viewers might already have something in place to manage their media. Why or what could Flowworks give them in addition?
Probably a lot of things. Probably the most striking thing is we have a lot of customers, yes, who have media, who somehow manage it, but it's actually not very well managed. And that's the most blatant example is that people have the content at one place and the metadata in another place, which is just not a good idea, because you're not going to ever find anything unless you really know the system. And if Mr. Smith goes on holiday, that's it. You're never going to find anything until he's back. So we've got a lot of customers who have that problem.
Air.
That's right. No, but seriously, outside of such basic considerations, which are nonetheless very important, especially, for example, for industrials, the things that we really offer is wall-to-wall carpeting, as you say in English. So we really cover the whole process. A lot of the other systems that we know and we look at and we like don't do publishing. They don't, they may be able to distribute a file, but that's it. It's kind of a one-way, it goes out, and I kind of lost track of what happened to it. We really developed the system over time and started off with the core production and core MAM stuff, doing all the workflow integration, workflow and device integration rather. But at a very early stage, we started adding publication and we added distribution because that's where you make the money. And we realized quite early, we shouldn't be just trying to sell people something that saves them money, but how about we give them something that saves them money and helps them make money? And that's just a different way of thinking. It's more holistic than most other systems. I just listed some of the customers, and you can imagine their focus is also very different. So, we've over time built a really big system in modules, but it covers virtually any use case. And I think that's a key difference to a lot of other systems, if not all other systems, that we have a different way of approaching the market, a larger thinking, broken down into small modules, which makes it quite practical, and we have all the experience.
One big advantage of your experience and working in that industry since such a long time is third-party integration. So not asking the customers to throw away what they already have.
Yeah.
Could you give an idea how that does work?
Well, from the way it works, that's actually quite simple. Let's say you have a transcoder, or you have a transcoder farm already sitting there, and it's still working. That's okay. Leave it where it is. Most third-party devices, also the flow center obviously offers has an API. So connecting any third-party device via the API is not magic. It just needs doing. We've been doing it, as you said, for a long time. We've been doing it a lot for broadcasters, so they have very long lists of lots and lots of third-party devices. So we've integrated really a lot of third-party devices, not just we know how to do it, but we probably already have everything integrated that a customer can throw at us. So it pretty much comes out of the box, actually. When we integrate something, our thinking is quite simple. That other tool does something really well that we may not do as well. So, we'd like to attach it, we'd like to integrate it, and in fact, we'd like to own it as part of the overall workflow, which is what our customer wants to have. They just want a seamless workflow. They don't care which machine does what, as long as the output is there and is excellent. So that's our task, and that's our thinking. We're a big system, but there's more out there than just us, so we integrate just about everything. For all the Star Trek fans out there, we're like the Borg. Resistance is futile, you will be integrated.
Attaching things to your systems directly brings us to the topic workflow.
Yeah.
Because obviously there is then a workflow.
Yeah.
It's the strength of the Flow Center?
Well, put it this way, we call the company FlowWorks, so it was quite obviously about workflows.
Yeah.
Yes, that is definitely a strength, and you can see on the chart, device integration is a topic per se, but workflow is really a key topic. Why is it a key topic? Because people need to be conscious about budgets, about resources used, including time resources, and the best answer to that usually is automation. So the more you can automate in your environment, and you'd be surprised what you could automate, you can really automate a lot, the better it will be for your economical result actually at the end of the day. So yes, we call the company FlowWorks because we're all about workflows, we're very good at that. And there's a separate module where not just we build the workflows for customers, but more importantly, we have designed the module so the customer gets autonomy, also from us. We want them to be able to fish, not just for us to serve them fish. So we train people on how to use the workflow manager. They get used to it. We sort of review what they're doing, and at some point, it's like a child starting to walk. Off they go, and they're happy. And we've got a lot of customers who are really excellent at workflow building. They've got a lot of practice, more than we have in some cases. And the big advantage to them is they're extremely fast, they're super flexible, versatile, and they're very knowledgeable, and they don't need us anymore. We prefer to build technology rather than administrate systems. The customer is better at that than we would be, so let him do it.
I do know that you have customers using this for really a huge amount of files every day. Could you describe a typical scenario where FlowWorks is used? and where workflows are
key.
built and key.
Well, I'll give you an example because it's one of my favorite topics about monetization, and the example is RTL, the TV broadcaster empire. It's quite a big company.
Germany,
In Germany, they have a lot of channels, and they also do a lot of VOD publishing. They themselves own a number of VOD platforms, but they also publish to third-party platforms, Netflix, Sky, etc., Ziggo. What they use our system for is basically to automatically ingest content that's coming in from other archives, from production partners who are external, even from their own archives, analyze the stuff that comes in, make sure it's technically valid, make sure all the metadata is there, make sure all the accompanying items such as box cover images, additional gallery images in the right shape and form is all completely there, and that's of course automated. Where everything is there, we will automatically green light that content, and we know from metadata or from scheduling input to which platforms that content is to go and when. So we automatically reprocess to make what we call target deliverables. If I'm publishing to Netflix, I need my formats in a specific set of rules. I need a certain amount of pictures that need a certain cropping, etc., etc. I need a certain set of metadata. So we package everything from the material that we received and we checked into the proper packaging for Netflix, the proper packaging for Sky, the proper packaging for RTL Now, which is one of their own platforms, and we deliver automatically. And of course, we then knock at the door and say, I'd like a receipt back, please. And ideally, I'd also like, dear VOD platform, I'd like you to tell me how many views that item got in the last month, for example. So it doesn't end with just delivering to a VOD platform. The business process continues, so we cover that as well. As I explained now, it's very important to do that economically because margins are slim. So we automated all of that. If there's a problem with a piece of input, and yes, that can happen, a piece of metadata is missing. Some of the rights have run out. There's only 2 instead of 3 landscape pictures accompanying the file. We then automatically notify an editorial user at RTL and pinpoint him exactly to what needs to be done and what needs to be fixed. So he can then manually address that, and the process picks up again and continues automatically. That's a very typical example of a workflow, and is also a good example of something that is designed to run 100% automated, as efficient as you can get it. But if there's a problem, the system doesn't just go lie on its back. It doesn't die, but it does something intelligent. It informs somebody.
Like automated workflows with human interaction.
That's right. That's right.
That automatically brings us to the topic collaboration, because where you have an automated workflow but several people working together, you already mentioned subtitling, pictures, etc.
Yeah.
That's a key feature of Flow Center. What collaborative task could be a topic for Flowcase?
Well, collaboration has always been a big topic for us. Before the whole pandemic came up, we already had it. We have a separate tool for that. It's one of our many GUIs, and it's called the room. The concept of the room is very simple. I have a house full of content, but there's 3 items I would like you to have a look at. Maybe I'd like you to review them for an approval. Maybe I would like you to do an editing job on them. Maybe I would like you to create a new Dutch sound file. Maybe I would like you to create the French subtitling version, or do the trailers, whatever. So there's lots of reasons why people need to collaborate, and that cannot just be internally, but of course it can also be with external partners. Especially the way the production environment is these days, it's very much spread around the place. And you need to keep your eye on certain things. I need to stay in control. I don't want to send out files if I don't have to, because I'm going to get into a versioning issue, plus it's obviously a legal issue. And I need to have everything as tight and as quick as I can, so I need a central place from where I send it and where the feedback comes back in. And that's the Flow Center coupled with the room. So in my house full of content, I pick out 3 items, and I can create in my house a new room called Jutta's Room, put the 3 items in there, write a set of instructions to you, and give you, and only you, the key to that room. And then I will tell the system, keep that room alive for 2 weeks, or until Jutta has uploaded her work, and then close the room and make it vanish. The upside is, it's still in my system. I'm not ever sending out any files to anybody. I am giving you very specific content, so I'm tailoring the content to you, and I'm also customizing really the dialogue, because I'm telling you exactly what I'd like you to do within that room. It's kind of like Dropbox and email, but it's not unprofessional. It's actually for professional. You can do it with a Hollywood movie, because it's obviously all encrypted and very, very, very well protected. That's the typical type of collaboration we see in production and broadcast environment, and there's a lot of it. If you go a step further, if you start thinking maybe what does an advertising agency do, you can just feel it. I mean, they have so much communication with their clients. How do they do that? Do they send emails? Do they use Dropbox? Still not a good idea, even for them. Use a room, much better idea. And if you want to take it a step further, and we have that experience with a lot of our industrial clients, for them it's a great communication tool. So they will do one-to-one communication for specific topics, maybe even just with an individual journalist, with maximum ease. You go into your archive system, into your flow center, and you simply say, that item to this guy, finished. And you still stay in control, and you get feedback, because if I send you 3 items for you to review, I can actually see, oh, Jutta didn't look at the first one. Jutta only looked at 10 seconds of the second one, but Jutta looked at the third file 5 times. Now, if I'm in a sales mode, I know what topic to call you with. So it's a very versatile tool. Collaboration is much more than in the production environment. It's also a very strong marketing tool. It is also a very strong sales tool. And it's all basically about dialogue. And as we're doing right now, a dialogue is more fun than reading a piece of paper. And it allows you to really get talking to your partners and customers.
Yeah, and get their feedback tracked in the system as well.
Correct.
What are the typical customers using, or what for do the customer use it exactly?
Well,
you mentioned RTL for their publishing, but there are others.
Well, RTL is, again, that's really huge throughput, and I've got a lot of files coming in. I don't want to archive them, really. My point is processing and monetizing. Other customers, like the National Library of Wales, which was one of my favorite customers, of course. You can hear it already. It's a stately affair. They have a castle as their main office. I love that. And they're really all about archiving. So for them, it's pulling in lots of content from all sorts of sources, TV, other libraries, other collections, et cetera, and making sure it's archived in a very proper manner and for a very long term with a maximum amount of metadata, because they're all about preservation. If you look at an industrial client, for example, they have huge amounts of content, because it's not just video, it's photo, don't forget, it's documents. I mean, it could be a press release. And their main focus is really actually managing the users, funnily enough. Because with our industrial clients, they may have thousands and thousands of users, so who gets to do and who gets to see what? And that needs to be steered. So you need to have a proper rights management engine, not just for the content, but also for your users. We talked about collaboration. That becomes hugely important. So there's lots of different ways of looking at the same system and lots of different use cases of the same system. For example, technical processing, pure archiving, sharing, but sharing in a structured way, and with all the checks and balances that you need to make sure the guy in Singapore doesn't accidentally publish something where the rights have run out. You better be in control of that, otherwise you're in trouble. We'll do that for you.
Yeah, you just mentioned Singapore. This brings us to another feature or key point of the Flow Center. It's distributed. So not only in Amsterdam, but also in all the facilities around the world.
Yeah, people sort of, when the MAM thing really started taking off, people said, oh, we're going to have a MAM system, we're going to have it at our main office in Amsterdam. And it was great. And, it was all wonderful and working super. But then the guy, even down in Berlin, really had an issue that he had to access that system via the internet, which is probably okay if you're sitting in Berlin. It's not so hot if you're sitting in Johannesburg, and it isn't going to work very well if you're sitting somewhere in Chile. So having a single system, which is where most people are still at, is a good thing. But if you've got lots of offices who may even be producing stuff where you have collaboration, you may want what we call a distributed network approach. The basic thinking is quite simple. I have a flow call. Maybe it's a big system and it's sitting in Amsterdam, but then I have 5 different offices, for example, if I'm a post-production house, spread around the world, where each location might have its own flow center. And keep in mind, the flow centers come as a regular server, rack server unit, but they also come in very small boxes called the flow ants. Small but powerful, but it's a fully featured MAM system. It's mobile. You just attach it to power in the internet, and hey presto, you have a local MAM system. And the intelligence really is, so these are the ants. We have a process and a module called flow to flow, which is self-explanatory, and that manages which files and which processes are shared across that network when. And because the company's called Flowworks, because we're very good at workflows, we obviously figured out fairly intelligent workflows, which allows you to work with 5 separate locations. Everything feels as one system, but you do need to move files every now and again, but you only move them when you need to move them. You don't just move them around because you have to, or because that's kind of the traditional way of doing it. It's adding intelligence really, and it allows you to create these network approaches.
Customers can grow with Flowworks, and always an interesting question is then pricing. How does it look like if a customer likes to start small?
Well, we've got customers from all walks of life. I mean, we've got the 5 guys in an editing suite. They do virals for Mini, and they have a really small system. They basically get a choice whether to buy the system, to rent the system, or do some sort of mix of the above. Anybody has that choice, and with a lot of even the big customers, we have that mix that they say certain all the customization will buy up front, but the system per se will rent over its time. And if we don't like it anymore, we switch it off. That's it. You simply write a nice letter saying bye-bye and you're out. You obviously get your data back. So rental is attractive to people. Since we also host a lot of our customers, we kind of did SaaS before the word SaaS got invented. We didn't come up with the word, unfortunately. We still called it hosting. How very pedestrian, yeah. No, you can basically have any model. You can buy, you can rent, you can mix. We even have cases where people say, look, I've got the super duper content and I want to monetize it, but I don't want to spend the money right now on commissioning you guys at Flowworks to build me a VOD outlet or build me a web outlet. How about we share? So we will go into kind of a joint venture with customers and say, we'll provide the technology, we'll build the front ends, but then we simply share the proceeds with you. Why not?
That's also one of my last questions. How can Flowwork help the customer to earn money?
Again, it's a very basic thought. People, for some reason, think, oh, it's really good to have a MAM system because then I have it all in one place. And the second thought, and once I have it in one place, I can then distribute it much easier to so many more channels and targets. That still hasn't happened very well, at least to my mind. As I said before, the whole monetization thing, play out and delivery is a huge topic for us and has been for a long time. We have our own VOD platform as basically like a template. You can just brand it for your own purposes. We have sales websites which help rights owners to actually monetize their content simply by traditional sales, but you don't have MIPCOM anymore. You better be online. We have the collaboration stuff, which is very important to salespeople because they know that Mr. Smith is interested in kids programming. I happen to have 5 really good series. I'm going to offer them to Mr. Smith. Well, you better be doing it somehow, and you better show him your wares. Or people have a website where they say, I'm going to simply do my 7-day catch-up, but I can include advertising revenues in that. So there's lots of ways of doing it. Of course, there is always, I'm going to sell my content. Or I'm going to sell my really good production abilities to somebody commissioning a production. So again, I need to show my show reels, etc., etc. The basic thought is simple. It works like an hourglass. Get everything into the system, get it structured and organized, and then you start discovering there's lots of ways of showing your stuff to all of your customers or even the potential users and buyers of your program, of your content, and even for people like Porsche. I mean, they understood it's not just about creating a proper archiving system, but it's all about then showing all those wonderful films they make to a global audience of people who might want to buy a Porsche. And you'd be surprised, there's a lot of them.
Yeah. And as the most customers, if they are catched once, they stay with you, which is great. Anything you like to add for today?
Well, look, the thing is, people know MAMs, or at least they think they know MAMs. People sort of say, well, I have a solution. And that's probably true. But I think you do need to go ask yourself, is that the right solution for today's challenges? I think we are very well set up and we are an interesting offering because we're such a large system, but because it's in modules, we can start very small, very economical. You talked about our customers being numerous and big. We as a company are actually very, very slim. I mean, we've been around for a while. We've spent a lot of time optimizing our processes and our software and developing that modular approach because we do want to talk to people who want to start small. I know I probably have a lot of road to travel, but I'm just going to do the first stint now. That's fine for us. We're actually quite happy doing that because it allows us to, just get practical, do stuff, understand what the company is specific in and what the specific needs they have, learn, and also share, of course, our experience, and then decide with the customer, well, maybe phase 2 isn't here, it's actually a bit more over here, and they learn from us too. So we can start small, we can grow with time and at the speed of the customer. I think that's a really big difference. And at the end of the day, that makes us quite price aggressive. As I said, we're a small company, but we have big customers. We own the company ourselves, so we don't have anybody breathing down our neck when we say we're going to develop a new technology or we want to get into a new market. And it's up to us to say, that's a great customer case, let's go for that. And so we do. That's how we grow.
Perfect. Thank you, Oliver. Thank you for today. If you like to chat with Oliver a little bit about the innovative product and the solutions Flowworks can offer to you, then meet him in the coffee bar right after in about 10 minutes. And stay tuned if you like to learn more about, I think Squared Paper is the next, so microservices and also a topic about workflows. Thank you for now.